to come down. But again, too, first year athletes in this fourth varsity eight. I think something hard to tell if you're a newer spectator to rowing is just the amount of core strength and balance and teamwork you have to be able to have to keep that boat on a level keel at full speed. It's like doing 230 deadlifts on top of a moving ground with with 9 other people, and the ground's moving because like everyone's left foot and right foot has to come up at the same time. It's incredibly challenging. So it's definitely great to see how this boat class and these athletes will build upon their skills in the coming years.
The beauty of this sport, I think, is that you can start in college, never having rowed before, and not only become a national champion, but become a hopeful Olympian.
Absolutely.
And we have, there are 4 women this year so far that are fighting for those Olympic spots that were just that. They were women that started rowing in college and went on to greatness. So
yeah, 4 women from the Big 10.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's fantastic. There's a lot of I don't know what the word is. The collegiate system within the United States is a huge development tool for not just the U.S. and their Olympic and national teams, but also internationally. I was looking at some notes here that 26 women, international women, so from other countries, competed in college at the 2020 Olympics, and add that to our Team USA roster. That's 24 women on that squad. 24 plus the 26, you got 50 athletes who trained in college, and that means that 20% of the Olympic regatta came to compete at a Big 10, like NCAA collegiate experience before then going into the highest level of rowing. And yeah, exactly like you said, like people pick up an oar, they don't know, it's their first time going out there, and they can achieve great things. And this is just the beginning. So we have no idea. There could be somebody out there in this race today that we may see at, in the 2032 games. You just never know.
Just like you never knew what would happen to you when I grabbed you as you were running along the lakeshore path.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I was a walk-on athlete at the University of Wisconsin. It was 10 years from touching an oar to being in the Olympics and the Olympic final in Rio de Janeiro in the women's quad. And that's the story of a lot of women,
Yes.
Especially in the Big 10. So I think it's a really cool and special tradition that we can kind of take pride in here within this conference. And like you said, we've got 4 athletes so far who are going into the Olympics. We know at least 2, actually. One, Sofia Fitas, who is going to be representing the United States in the women's double for Team USA, and Maddie Wanamaker, who will be representing either the 8 or the 4. They're deciding on boat classes right now for Team USA. There are 2 other athletes attempting for that spot. They're in the final qualification regatta today to be able to see if they can snag a spot for the United States in the upcoming Olympic Games. But I'm sure, from all of these different programs, there's also a lot of internationals that we don't yet know about who've made their respective national teams. And again, a lot of women come to the U.S. to be able to embrace this collegiate rowing experience. It teaches you so much about yourself, about working with others. It's an amazing addition to the student athlete experience.
Well, and I think we're one of the few countries that allows their top level athletes to attend college and get a college education because of the scholarship opportunities that we have, and because we've been able to create a really good training program that keeps them ready to take that next step.
Yeah, the level of racing at the NCAA level has really taken a big step forward from the previous years. Just seeing, some of the early Big 10 races where there'd be a pretty big the gap between the 2 crews or several of the crews, and now you see some really close racing, which is fun to see. And I think, like you were saying, that it brings, the kind of intensity and experience of being in that intense environment that helps you at the Olympic level.
So next race up that we will have kicking off at 9:20 in a few short minutes will be the third varsity eights. So again, majority first-year athletes, novices or recruits. It's all first-year collegiate athletes. So in this race, as the referee would read left to right, as we can see on the screen here, we will have Wisconsin in lane 1, Ohio State in lane 2, lane 3, Minnesota, lane 4, Michigan, Indiana in lane 5, lane 6, Rutgers, Iowa in lane 7, and in lane 8, Michigan State. It'll be interesting to see kind of like within these different squads. So each program kind of organizes their first years a little differently. But, we saw Michigan as a #1 seed in the last race, but different 2 and 3 seeds. And so that kind of speaks to like what's your depth within your first years. And it'll be interesting to see how, if that correlates or if it doesn't, what the differences are. I love seeing kind of the differences in how each event builds on each other and kind of speaks to what the color and the cards are of that team.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting that the Big 10 conference is one of the few, if not only, conference that has first-year collegiate rowing events.
Absolutely. Yep.
In a lot of the other conferences, if they have a third and fourth eight, they can be filled by anyone on the team with any amount of experience, where the coaches in the Big 10 have fought to keep that quality of that first freshman experience or first year experience very true. And so I think that's part of the reason that the conference is so strong.
Yeah, absolutely. We were kind of talking informally earlier. We were trying to calculate some numbers here. There's at least 500 athletes here competing at this regatta, either on the water or as spares here as alternates in case they need to be drawn upon. We can see panning here all of the fans and spectators here in support of the different crews here. There's a lot of athletes, there's a lot of fans, and I think the Big 10 is one of the biggest conferences within the NCAA collegiate rowing. Like speaking to that kind of depth and breadth of the women that we can have here as athletes. So being able to have 2 events of first-year collegiate athletes is, I think, incredibly helpful in that kind of retention and expansion of our Big 10 conference.
Absolutely. Good for the students, good for the sport.
Mm-hmm. So panning up to the start here for the third varsity eights. Crews are in the starting blocks, getting themselves centered.
Again, the water looks great for them.
Great conditions. We were all here yesterday sort of scoping out the scene. There was a little bit of wind. It came from a different direction. This is ideal. BB were saying this is probably a cross tail, but not so heavy that it's going to be really challenging for these first year athletes. I mean, it will be challenging for these first year athletes, but not as much as a really strong tailwind, which demands a lot of technical rowing. But it's not a deadhead, which it could be. It's a tailwind, which is fantastic. The water is not necessarily flat, but really manageable. There's the little bit of texture to the water, maybe coming into the third 500, and then leveling it out in those last 250 strokes. So great set of the scene here for this third varsity 8 race.
Yeah, it looks like it's calmed down a little bit at the start.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking the same thing. Now I'm looking at the official up in the starting tower. The red flag is up and it's down. We've got a start. Looks to be clean all the way across. No issues.
And who we have in this race again, over in lane 1. So as that referee in the tower reads from their left to right is Wisconsin. Lane 2, Ohio State. Lane 3, Minnesota. Michigan. Lane 4, Lane 5, Indiana. Rutgers in lane 6. Lane 7, Iowa. And Michigan State in lane 8.
Michigan's pulled out to an early lead, and then it looks like Rutgers is next. But it's pretty close, as you can see. Pretty close race for second.
And these are going to be the kind of some of the fastest pure like first year combinations. So we may see a couple of first year freshmen up in some other boats, but these athletes in these lineups are going to be first year collegiate athletes. And you're correct that it is Michigan out in front. They're the number one seed in this race. But that fight for second through fifth, I would say, is really tight here.
Wow, it's incredible. You got Minnesota up there, right? And you've got Ohio State, you've got Rutgers, you got Indiana.
I would say Rutgers outperforming their seed just a little bit. They were fourth coming to this race, so I think they think, hey, they got nothing to lose. Let's see what we can do out here. Throwing out their cards early, see if they can kind of intimidate the field here. See if they can get out early. Can they hold it? Crew next to them, Indiana, one of the highest seeds for this team, this program as well. They're fighting it, so they're probably only about a foot down from Rutgers off to their left-hand side, off to their starboard side. And as they cross that the first 500 meters, Michigan, maybe Rutgers, and then Indiana.
Yeah, and you've got some of the outer crews here. Michigan State's holding on to Iowa, and you've got Wisconsin holding on to Ohio State. And then I think, Michigan's out. They're trying to break open water. Rutgers has moved up a little bit into their boat from being down. And then you've got Indiana that's just holding strong. They're right with Rutgers. In terms of the next crews racing, you have Iowa and Minnesota. And now you have Ohio State that's moved back into the picture with those two crews. They had a big move in that part of the race just there and move themselves up. Look at Michigan there, strong together, great acceleration, not a lot of extra body movement. They're taking a big move here and trying to create that open water. But you've got Rutgers. Look at they're like, no, we're not going to let you go. We're holding on to you. And they're starting to take a little seat here on Indiana. They've got about 3 seats on Indiana.
Yeah, so it's that fight between second and third, and then that fight for fourth place is going to be a really interesting one as we come towards the 1,000-meter mark. It does look like Michigan may have just a foot of open water at this point. Rutgers and Indiana, like Mandy was saying, having that fight. There's contact over with Iowa there with that fight, but then across the field closest to shore, we can see Minnesota and Ohio State here also kind of exchanging some seats back and forth. We see Michigan State on the far side of the field. Wisconsin will be in the lane closest to shore. So it is definitely a fight here. I love watching. It looks like maybe the Indiana crew made a little bit of a move on
Yeah, they
Rutgers
sure did. That was great move right there. Great move. And Iowa has made some open water over on Michigan State, and they've moved into Minnesota a little bit. So, and they're closing the gap there on Rutgers as well. Rutgers take a counter move, and they've gotten back a seat, and Michigan has open water now. Clearly open water here as we're coming up to that 500-meter mark to go. Still plenty of room to make a difference here. Each crew, again, fighting just like the last race. We're seeing some moves and some counter moves, which is really awesome. Man, that race between Rutgers and Indiana, boy, you'd love to be in those boats. There's nothing like that when it's just stroke for stroke. That intensity within the crews. That's just a fun environment to be in. Minnesota seems to have just a couple inches over Iowa, but Iowa seems to be getting themselves back into the picture. And they've made some contact with Indiana, it seems like. It's very little, but they're making some contact from this angle.
We can start to hear the cowbells come out cheering on these crews now that we can see the whole field and see where all the cards lie. So it does look like Michigan, they are crossing that last 500-meter mark. They have taken up the rate a bit. I think they want to see how far can we push this lead, which they definitely have. Then we look at our next two boats that we have crossing the line. Looks like taking a charge here.
Yeah, big charge. Indiana, huh? They just made a big move in 4 or 5 seats, and they continue to move.
Slingshot is what we call that.
Yes, in Minnesota, look at, they're coming at it. They're charging up. They are not too many. They're about 4 seats down on Rutgers.
But I would say the momentum is with them. Look at that move.
Yes, that's a great move. Michigan still holds the lead. Oh, they got their blades caught in the water a little bit. Indiana continues to move on Rutgers. Minnesota moving up on Rutgers as well. They are in a position to possibly pull in front of them as we come down into this race. Iowa and Ohio State duking it out. Iowa's probably in the lead there between those two crews. You've got Minnesota moving up. Indiana has moved up. Who's it going to be coming into this last 250? You can clearly see Michigan still in the lead. Indiana is trying to close the gap. Minnesota has taken the lead over Rutgers, and they are charging.
They're trying to
check out the Gophers.
There, look at them go.
Yes, what a great sight here at this event. Michigan's holding on to the lead. You've got Indiana making another counter move that brought themselves a little bit ahead of Minnesota. And then you've got Rutgers holding off Iowa. Right there, you've got Michigan, Indiana, Minnesota, Rutgers, and Iowa barely right over. Who is that? Ohio State and Michigan State and Wisconsin. Wow, another great race.
Yeah, you can see they got to put on the brakes real fast there. That was a hot one coming into that last 400 meters or so.
They almost beached it.
Yeah. Get right out, keep on going. They were charging. That was a fantastic race for that second place, third place battle there between Minnesota, and Rutgers to get that third place position. What a race.
Wow, it's just been so great to see how this is moving forward. I mean, in terms of the rowing, the quality of the rowing here. It's been really fun to see.
Look, they're so close to shore. You can see people walking out almost to greet them.
Yep.
Well, that's the beauty. One of the other beauties of Devil's Lake is if they don't hold hard enough, they just go up on the beach instead of hitting rocks like there are at some other courses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or a dam. Wow, I just tell you, that was just some fun racing. Just to see them hold on to that, that fight. It's easy when a crew moves on you to want to give up on that, but not here today, not one bit.
Yeah, so you can see good sportsmanship here. You saw the stroke seat, Gretel Ham kind of working together with the crew next to them. I mean, now that the race is over, there's just a huge, when you have a race like that, it's just a huge sense of respect. You know that everyone laid it out there, pushed each other all the way down to that line. And I think those are some of my favorite races that I recall. You're so dialed in and focused. You're coxswain, you're listening purely to their voice. You're in this kind of crazy state of not thinking straight. It's just a little bit crazy. And you're there with your teammates. You're there with the field. And it's just the strength of the conference once it's done. That the field really pushed you to a new level.
Yeah, coming into that last, when you come into that last 500, you're coming into that last 250. I mean, I know when I'm racing, I love that part. You're about to crank it up. You're pretty uncomfortable, but you get a chance to pick up that boat speed, knowing the finish line is coming. And when you've got crews right, next to you, that's a great battle, and that's when that's really enjoyable as a racer.
It just pours on some special sauce that you didn't know you needed.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just makes the whole experience.
We got some friendly volunteers there helping push the boats. The wind kind of, it doesn't help either. You've got the tailwind pushing you into the shore.
Mm-hmm. Getting the full Devil's Lake experience. I was doing some research on this lake, and because I think it was really cool to see that across all these different lanes, you saw these charges happen on both the far side and the near side. I think that speaks to the equal, what would you say? Fairness across all of the lanes between the wind and the depth and the features. It's a really interesting body of water. I was doing some research just about the lake in general, and it's pretty evenly deep all the way across, which is ideal for rowing. So you don't have any kind of, underwater topography that's affecting the water. Also, there is no surface outlets. It's spring fed. So what that means is that there's no current. It doesn't feed into a river. So there's no real flow that's really messing with things across the lake here. kind of a bit of a mystery. They think it drains into, I think the Baraboo River, maybe. They don't know how
Wisconsin
the
River.
Wisconsin River, if it gets like how it gets fed, how it drains out. So it's a bit of a mystery. So another name for this lake is Spirit Lake, exactly for that mysterious reason. But it makes an ideal spot for rowing, just for those fairness reasons that we were talking about.
Again, you look at the times here. A few years ago, there was a little bit more spread between the crews, and here you've got some close racing, really close racing. You look at between Iowa and Ohio State, it's 6:51.71, 6:51.91.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty close race.
It is, and it's about 3 seconds for an entire boat length.
Yeah.
So to have that field all within that striking distance is a really exciting time.
Yeah. Seems like the water's come down just a little bit here, at least the wind. I mean,
it does look to have leveled out a little bit.
There's some tufts, you can see some gusts, blowing on top of the surface right past the 500-meter mark. But other than that, I feel like it's come down since we started.
And there's definitely a mental challenge as well as a physical challenge when it comes to wind or any other conditions out there. The rowers' jobs are to stay focused internally, to stay inside the boat. And while they're aware of what's going on around them, they can't really focus on any of that because the goal is to be exactly with the woman in front of them. And the coxswain is in charge of letting them know what's going on and letting them know if they're doing what they need to do. And so, especially, again, for these first-year collegiate rowers, to be able to have a great competitive race like that and stay internal and stay focused is just such a testament to the quality of the competition here and the skill that the coaches have in getting their athletes to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
Yeah, focusing on the task at hand. I mean, can be a bit overwhelming for a first-year collegiate athlete. This may be one of the biggest regattas they've been to. Definitely one of the kind of marquee regattas that a lot of programs focus on with their training through the entire year. And they've been hearing about this from maybe their upperclassmen. They know maybe some, programmatic records like Michigan. They're looking to get another win here. They've had a very successful run here at the Big 10 championship. So looking to add another one to Mark Rothstein, head coach's program here to tie for the most winningest Big 10 conference coach. Michigan has had a number of these Big 10 wins, as has Ohio State as a program. And then scattered out through that, we have Wisconsin, Michigan State for championship winners. So again, all of these events that we're seeing, each event is scored so that they're contributing towards a Big 10 team championship. So each one of these first year eights, the 4V and the 3V, have contributed to the total team points that we now see on the screen. So currently in first place, we have Michigan with that 24 points, with just an edge ahead of Minnesota. Indiana and Iowa tied at the current point. Those were some of their higher seeds for their program. So we'll see how it'll shake out. Rutgers, I noticed, had a very consistent seeding throughout the regatta. So it'll be interesting to see how they contribute to their team championship, as does Ohio State.
As we go through the championship towards the premier events at the end, there's more points to be gained per event. And so you'll see some more difference as we get further and further along in the regatta. But that doesn't mean that every point isn't important. In many years, we've had to flip the schedule so that the varsity event was first and the fourth varsity 8 was the last race of the day. So the Big 10 championship more than once was determined by the outcome of that fourth varsity 8. So every race matters.
Mhm.
Every athlete and every boat matters. And again, that's something that makes this a pretty fantastic event to watch.
You know, you think about today, there's just rowing happening all over the country, right? Like, I know it's fun to just check your phone and see what the results are and what's happening at all the other conference